The English have a saying, it never rains, but it pours. And I bet you it's not just me who have experienced that. One thing goes wrong and then suddenly there's a whole lot of other things that goes wrong with it. We all have problems, issues, especially in our current situation. Think about our country, about all the problems in our country, and wow, it feels like nobody is doing anything about these problems. On the contrary, it feels like the problems just get more and more. And then also, all your personal problems, those problems nobody even knows about. It doesn't matter what you classify as problems and how you define problems. If something's a problem, it's a problem. Whether it's financial problems, relationship problems, maybe you are estranged from your children. No matter what problems you are currently experiencing, everybody has problems. I want to be bold enough to say, if you have never experienced problems, then you have a problem. And most of the times, when we experience problems, the first question we ask is, where is God in all of this? Why does God allow this? What's up, God? Problems sometimes feel just so unfair. Is it fair that we as citizens of our country must struggle because of the mismanagement of our leaders? Your personal problems. Does it feel fair that you must go through what's happening to you now? Even if your problems are maybe your own fault, you still feel inside of you, but I apologized. I tried to fix it. So why do I have to go through this? Problems. That's the one thing we all have in common. But what does the Bible say about problems, and how do we deal with them? When it comes to problems and trials and tribulations, I cannot help but think about the words of James, the brother of Jesus. Now, just before we get to what James said, there is a reason I say he was Jesus's brother. And I don't think we always really think about this fact. James was Jesus's brother. Jesus had 4 brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. And Jesus also had sisters. You hear about them in Matthew 13. Jesus was not an only child. He was part of a family. He was the only child born while his mother was still a virgin, yes. So you can say, okay, James is Jesus' half-brother. But that's not the point. Jesus grew up in a family environment, and James was Jesus' little brother. He grew up with Jesus. He played with Jesus as a child. He very possibly also, like any other children, sometimes fought with his brother. And when they grew up, what was their relationship like then? Well, listen. Jesus was one day busy speaking to a large crowd of people, and then, when his family heard what was happening, they tried to take him away. He's out of his mind, they said. They thought he was crazy. In John, we read that his brothers did not believe in him. Now, imagine your brother comes to you and says, hey, I am the Son of God. Would you believe him? Hey, dude, I know who your father is. He's the same man who is my father, okay? But then, James's brother was killed. And a few days after his death, James had breakfast with his murdered brother on the beach. James's brother rose from the dead, just like he said he would. His brother was who he said he was. Jesus was the Messiah. He was the Son of God. And so James became the leader of the first church in Jerusalem. Now, when Paul talks about James, he says James was one of the pillars of the Christian movement. And think about this. James had experience when it came to problems. Listen, He became the leader of this new movement, this movement that declares Jesus as king, the movement who said Jesus is the Son of God. He became the leader of this Jesus movement in the same city where they crucified Jesus. The same authorities that crucified Jesus were still in power. James led the church among the people who crucified Jesus. Can you imagine what kind of problems James had to face? In those days, they had many challenges. Today, we have many challenges, and tomorrow there will be many challenges. When it comes to Christianity, we will always face difficult challenges. We will always have problems. But here is what James said about problems. He said the following: Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. Now, it's tough to think there will always be problems. And now James goes further and he says, we must be happy about our problems. Come on. That's even worse. I must be happy about my suffering? Who does that? Why on earth should I be happy about trials and tribulations? Let's be honest. Do you celebrate it when you are going through difficult times? Do you celebrate your loss? Do you like it when your faith is stretched and tested? So what does James mean by this? Now, when I read this passage, I get the sense James wants to tell us, be patient with your problems. It's as if James wants to say, don't try and get rid of your problems too quickly. Allow your trust in God to grow, because then you discover your life's purpose and you will become spiritually healthy. Problems is an opportunity for your trust in God to grow. Now, I'm not saying for one moment that God causes problems, but God can use your problems to grow your trust in Him. To such an extent that you will discover your life's purpose and you will become completely spiritually healthy. In this passage of James, I hear 4 things. First, I hear that problems are part of life. It's just the way it is. Everyone has problems. Everyone experiences their problems intensely. Nobody is excused from problems. Nobody lives isolated from problems. We are affected by problems. Problems impact our lives. Every person's life is touched by their problems. And let's be honest, the moment you experience serious problems, what is truly inside of you comes to the surface. Think about this. How do you handle your problems? Your first reaction to your problems is usually a sign of what is happening inside of you. She breaks up with you. Your first reaction? You explode. You insult her. You belittle her. You tell everyone how bad she is because you are angry. The anger inside of you comes out. Or you are broken. You cry. You feel hurt because you are sad, and your sadness shows itself. What is inside of you always comes to the surface the moment a problem appears. And according to James, problems are supposed to bring our trust in God to the surface. Trust in God is supposed to live here inside of us. Problems are supposed to show and build our true character. And according to James, problems are God's gym for our lives. Problems build your trust in God. When a problem shows up, the first thing you must do is not try to find a solution. The first thing you must do is to trust that God will lead you to the right solution. Trust that He is in control even when it doesn't look like that. Trust that God is God and you are not. He sees things that you don't see. He knows things that you don't know. I've seen my own first reaction to problems. My reaction, most of the times, it makes the problem even worse. But every time I recklessly trust God during problems, that is when I experience peace in the problem. I had calmness. It didn't remove the problem, but it gave me the patience to handle the problem correctly. We as humans, our first reaction to problems is to jump in and fight the problem. But listen here. David wrote, now he was a man with many problems, and he wrote the following: wait patiently for the Lord. Be brave and courageous. Yes, wait patiently for the Lord. Isaiah, who also experienced a lot of problems, he wrote the following: but those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. They will soar high on the wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. And then Jeremiah wrote Lamentations. Now, Lamentations contains the sorrowful reaction to the destruction of Jerusalem and the Holy Temple. It happened around 486 BC, and it happened in Jeremiah's time. The Holy Temple was destroyed. The Israelites had no more hope. Their identity was in the temple, and now the temple's destroyed. And then Jeremiah wrote the following. He said, the Lord is good to those who depend on Him, to those who search for Him. Problems. My reaction says, do something. Fight the problem. And God says, hey, be still and know that I am God. Wait and trust me. Problems. It's a great gym for building trust. Then the second thing I hear James is saying to us is, there are a variety of different problems, different shapes and different sizes, and they come with different intensity. The way you deal with this is not to keep doing the same things over and over again, but to pause and think, what has changed? What is different now? And to what degree is my trust in God coming to the surface? Have you ever thought, wow, I reacted too quickly again, or wow, I shouldn't have said that? Your biggest regret is most of the time because you reacted too quickly. Problems can create an opportunity for you to pause and to think and to live differently. Einstein said, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Problems come to change our lives. They come to pull the steering wheel of our life off course. You are going to have to stop. You have to think, and you have to act differently. And once again, we must trust God. He will lead us to the right different. If we wait on Him and if we seek Him, He will lead us. When a person's faith, your trust in God, is tested, it produces endurance. In my own life, wow, there have been many problems. And do you know why it has been easier for me lately to trust God and push through? It's because I remembered what happened the last time I trusted God. I remembered the previous moments where I had to place my trust in God. And again, my trust in God didn't take the problem away, but it did enable me to pass the test. It allowed me to endure. Maybe your problems are actually calling you to shift gears in your life. And then the third thing I hear James saying to us is this: problems are unpredictable. He says, when you fall into all kinds of trials, and okay, I know, some problems are definitely predictable, right? I mean, if you drove home drunk and caused an accident, well, that could be predicted. When you cheated on your wife and she found out, that is not an unpredictable problem. There are problems we create for ourselves because of the things we keep doing. Problems that we actually had control over, but we did not take control over. But most of our problems arrive without invitation. They also usually show up at the worst possible time. So many problems come without you having any control over them. And when problems come, they take over your whole life and they occupy your entire thought world. Your problems overwhelm your life and it takes all you can think of. It becomes all you can think of. All your planning and doing now revolves around your problems. It consumes you. And James says, the way you handle this is to accept it, to embrace your problems. Problems is here now. There is nothing you can do to make your problems disappear. All your stress, all your fighting, it won't make your problems vanish. What we sometimes do is we ignore our problems and, oh wow, that's so dangerous. That problem is not going to go away. In fact, if you ignore problems, that problems have babies. So don't ignore your problems. Acknowledge it and accept it. And then be still and know that He is God. Trust God. Wait on Him and seek His guidance in your difficult time. Because the fourth thing James is saying about problems is this: problems can be purposeful. If you endure in faith, trusting God, then you will reach your life's purpose and be spiritually healthy. You will lack nothing. Trust in God, who always wants what's best for His children. The God who loves us so much that He sent His one and only Son for us. What more do we need? So here's the invitation. Let us embrace our problems. Let us shift gears in our lives. And let us allow problems to grow our faith. God is much more interested in your character than your comfort. Allow your problems to show you something about your character. And what can you do to grow in your character so that you become more and more like Jesus, and so that Jesus can become more and more visible through your life?